Hello everyone, good evening, and it's a great pleasure to see you guys back on the string. Okay, I'll take that again.
Rewind.
I just rewind and restart again. Hello everyone, it's a great pleasure to see you guys back, and it feels like more than a week somehow. Yeah, it feels like a bit like, it feels like I haven't seen you guys for a while. Maybe it's just me. However, it's good to be back. Today we're going to do our lesson number 9, and we've got one more week. Then we're going to have a lesson 10, and then afterwards, as you know, we're going to have the Congress. When's the Congress? When's the Congress coming on to? It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Check out the date, will you? On there, go to calendar, and let's see.
Calendar here.
There.
Aha.
Right. So it's on the 21st and 22nd. So 9. Ooh. So our 10th lesson. We probably won't have a lesson because it's the Congress evening. Anybody coming to the Congress from there? No? Okay, maybe next time, not to worry. It's a good idea to come to the Congress if you can. So maybe next year. Now our 10th lesson will probably be the week after. Okay, so just make a mental note. They'll probably send you an email, but it's just a good thing I'll remind you here, because that's going to be on a Congress evening. So we'll be at the Congress Center by then, and the Congress will be carrying on. So on that week, on the 20th of February, we probably won't be having a lesson, and on the 27th we probably will have the 10th lesson. Okay, but we'll let you know when that happens. That's the 10th lesson. So other than that, everything I hope is good with you guys. Today we're going to do Finding the Spiritual Vessel, lesson number 9. If any of you have the Shamati book, you can put a separator there or a bookmark on page 188. We're going to read that. But before we do, let's just do a little introduction to the topic, shall we? Finding the Spiritual Vessel, because the topic is nice. Finding a spiritual vessel. Finding a spiritual vessel actually means finding my soul. It's really for us to study the wisdom of Kabbalah and to discover and to build that sensory organ where we can feel the Creator all the time. In fact, not just the Creator. Well, everything is the Creator, but within the Creator, within the sensation of the Creator, to actually feel all the details of creation, and to feel all the intricacies of the system, so we can really discover what the Creator really is, and to sense the whole system, to live as part of the system. Actually, our soul is a part of the whole system. It's like being a part of the body. It's like being one of my eyes, let's say. It just helps me to see everything in life. So the soul is also as such. It's the sensory organ that allows me to understand, to feel, to participate in the whole of reality, as I would. And what we need to do is to build that. Now our problem is, let's start drawing a little bit. Our problem is we don't feel like we have a soul at the moment. So that's a problem. How are we going to build one? When we're living in this reality, we don't know how to build one either. We just fall seemingly out of the sky, and we're requested by an inner urge to discover the meaning of life. And when we find the wisdom of Kabbalah, we are advised by Kabbalists to connect, which we don't also know what really connection means, so that we can actually feel something. So it all looks a little weird on the outside, because they're asking us to do something which we don't really know what to do, we don't know how to do, and we don't even understand why we need to do it. So this lesson is an insight on why we have to build a connection between us. Now, in the first semester, we learned that the Creator created everything in perfection in the first place. So everything in creation was, and actually is still, in perfection. However, in order to discover perfection, and in order to make sure that all of us are a part of this perfection, just like the Creator is at a conscious level, the Creator has to play a game on us. Literally a game. Right? Do you guys like to play games? Right? When we grow up, we sometimes say, don't play games with me. Okay? But as kids, we all like to play games, don't we? In fact, we have to play games when we're children, otherwise we won't grow up. The essential part of being a child, or even when you're a small animal, or even a plant, you have to understand that in order to grow, we have to play the game. And this game, for us, as we grow up, although we don't like it as we grow up sometimes, this game is called discovering reality. Now, this is the real reality. We're created in such a state, imperfection. We are imperfection, but unfortunately, we feel everything but perfection in our lives. Okay? We just don't feel perfection at all. We, in fact, feel quite a chaotic life. It's disturbing. If we look at the whole world, there are a lot of dramas happening all the time, a lot of problems, wars, conflicts. We feel a life of, we see a world of suffering, even though we have enough food for everyone to go around. There's a lot of hunger. There are a lot of diseases, wars, all kinds of horrible things in life. We don't feel like we're living in perfection. However, in order for us to build that perfection, we need to start from a really opposite state called this chaotic world of ours, this world. And we need to reach this perfection where we have no feeling of it, no sensation of it at all. But we need to get to that perfection from this world into there. And while we're in our little bubble here, the Kabbalists are saying there's no way you're going to feel perfection at all. So we have to somehow go through a process called playing the game in order to build our spiritual life. This act of going up is called building our soul, which we talked about a lot. And the reason we talk about it a lot is because a person presumes or assumes, somehow, that he or she already has a soul. Okay, because we've been raised that way. From childhood, they told us in our religions or teachings or whatever that we have a soul. So we presume that we have one, and even if we pass away, we're going to have one. Well, the Kabbalists are saying, yeah, it's not quite true, really. And what they've done is explain to us how we can have a soul from scratch when in fact we don't have one. Now the Creator is exactly here right with us where He created us in the first place. And in order for us to get up there in a conscious state, we are in a place called breaking. In fact, you know what? We are broken. Let me just write it that way. We are broken. Okay? We're in a broken state. This is perfection. And coming down in consciousness from there to here is called the breaking of the soul, or the shattering of the soul. Breaking. And we feel our lives broken here, so we need to go back. In order for us to go back, we need to build this perfection from all of the pieces on the planet. And guess who all the pieces are? Yep. All of us on the planet. That's including the neighbor you don't like so much. Okay? All of us. Including your friends that you might not like. To everyone that you do like, you love or you dislike. And that adds up to 8 billion people. However, though, we also learned that the perception of reality is from the eyes of the observer. Who's with us today?
Oh, we've got Tony.
Okay, so let's say this is Tony, right? So Tony, although lives in his corporeal body, as he advances in spirituality, he can take a look at the whole of reality through the eyes of the observer, which is his sixth sense. And despite the fact that there are 8 billion other people in the world, he actually can fix his vision of perception of reality and feel this initial state of perfection that we were all created in, as I just drew, from his point of view. So Tony, by studying spirituality, can feel the same state of perfection while he's living here in this body. He can feel this initial state by building his soul and observing reality from that soul and actually feeling that perfection. Just like we were initially created here. However, the difference between Tony that's here and the Tony that's here now, after he studied Kabbalah, is that he has a higher consciousness which he built. The reason we don't have a higher consciousness in this state is because we don't feel the opposite state of being broken. So here our state of perfection is very unconscious. It's like a person who's in a very comfortable sleep mode. You know, sometimes you guys anybody take an afternoon nap? Okay, we call it something like, there's a certain word for it. It's like sugar. Okay, it's this half an hour, 45-minute nap. It feels so good. Okay, and that's how really this state here is. It's this nice, comfortable, beautiful nap where you feel everything is really nice and comfy, but it's all in the subconscious. And our situation in our life is also pretty much like that. We have 5 senses, as you know, from perception of reality, which allow us to investigate this world through our 5 senses: sight, hear, smell, taste, and touch. This is our reality. But now with spirituality, we can add, and this is consciousness. We can add our subconscious into the equation and build a new reality with the help of our dot in the heart, which will get help from the Creator, and His help on us is called the light, and that will allow us to build a higher level of consciousness that will perceive Him. That's the whole trick. Okay? In order for us to do that, we have to understand what connection is. So the Kabbalists are saying, guys, in this reality, we all feel like separate people. So we need to build a system where everybody completes the other. This is why we always feel something is missing in life. In life, we always feel something is lacking, something is missing. This is why we run after things, okay? The reason we run after things, the reason we're always unfulfilled is because we don't have the rest of our organs connected to us. But if all of us are connected together, then it allows us to complete each other. Okay? And how we connect is what we're going to study. And if you guys open up page 188, if you guys got the book, great. If you don't, just bear with me so we can study this together, okay? It's an important article. First will be the correction of the world. So we need to understand how we're going to correct our world. And where's the mode? There we go. So first we're going to understand how we correct our world so that we can actually feel that higher level of consciousness. This is the only thing we have to do in life, by the way. Shamati 69. First will be the correction of the world. I heard on the month of Sivan, which is June 1943. He said that first will be the correction of the world. Then will be the complete redemption, the coming of the Messiah. This is the meaning of, but thine eyes shall see thy teacher, etc. And the whole earth shall be full of the knowledge. This is the meaning of what he wrote, that first the interior of the worlds will be corrected, and subsequently the exterior of the worlds. But we must know that the externality of the world is a higher degree than the correction of the internality. So he's telling us there are two realities. So it looks like there is an internality and an externality. And it seems like the externality is a higher degree, okay? And the root of Israel is from the interior of the worlds. So this, when it's talking about Israel, okay, we're not talking about the country, obviously. Okay? We're talking about, when it says Israel, in the books, when they talk about Israel, it means, this comes from the word Yashar El. Yashar means straight towards, and El means creator. So anybody who directs himself towards the creator is called Israel. We are not talking about the Israeli on the street. We are not talking about the land of or the country of Israel. And we're not talking about the people who live in the country of Israel. Okay, are we all clear with that? It's very important. Okay, this definition is very important. This is why a lot of people misunderstand what's in the books, because they think they're talking about a guy who holds an Israeli identification card, and that's not right. Okay? Now, so Israel means the internality of the worlds. Okay? This is all, by the way, inside of an individual person. Remember I was talking about Tony here? Right? Here? This is Tony. And how he is inside reality. The Tony here and the Tony here. How he's looking at himself from the outside as well. Where is that Tony? Oh, there we go. Okay. Remember what I drew here about Tony? How he sees the whole world? Well, this is actually all inside still Tony. So inside Tony, there's a part called Israel, which is his internality. And then inside Tony, there's a sensation called externality. But all these feelings are happening inside Tony. Who else is with us?
We've got Emmanuel.
Okay, so it's happening inside Emmanuel. Who else?
And also we have Jose.
Jose. So your microphone's not on. Okay.
So Emmanuel,
Jose, who else?
we've got Carmen here.
Carmen. So all of us, inside of us, all of us individually have a thing called internality. And also inside all of us, there is externality. Okay, we all good with that? Yes? It's very important. And the internal part of a person is called Israel. That internal part of us, if it's directed towards the Creator, okay, towards the Creator, that inclination towards the Creator is called Israel. And anybody who wants to discover the Creator and who's seeking the Creator, who wants to come to the meaning of life, has this thing called Israel inside him, and that's that person's internality. Have I made that definition clear? Okay, it's very important. This is why all the religious people go nuts sometimes. Why? Because they think there's talking about country. All right? There's nothing to talk about countries. There is only people who have a purpose in life, which they need to get to. And this is the beginning point when a person is asking him or herself about the meaning of life. That means the Israel in that person is waking up. That's why it's called the internality of a person. Right then. So let me start that paragraph again. In the root of Israel, and the root of Israel, is from the interior of the worlds. Now, as you know, we studied the worlds before. What are the worlds? They're the degrees of feeling the Creator. Remember? Okay? Remember how we all descended from perfection into this world? Remember in the first lesson? There was the world. In the first semester, Adam Kadmon, Atzilut, Bria, Yitzira, Asiya. And we're created here in perfection, and how the Creator kind of descended us all the way down to this world. And now we're living in an unconscious state without spirituality. Okay? So this is the internality, and as we go out, we're going towards externality. And this world is the furthest externality in the world. Okay, the furthest distance from the Creator. This is the meaning of, for ye were the fewest of all people. So why are we guys the fewest of all people? There are 8 billion people. How many of us studying Kabbalah tonight? How many of us is there?
We are looking at 20 here and 7 in the moderation.
Okay, let's say 30. Okay, let's be a bit more generous and round it up to 30. Okay? 8 billion people, and tonight it's all about us wanting to find out who the Creator is. That's a really low number. Okay? But the Kabbalists knew about it, and the Creator in fact wrote about it. He said, you guys are the least of all people. So there's only a handful of people compared to 8 billion people who study Kabbalah and want to really attain the meaning of life and become just like the Creator. You look at the numbers in the world, you look at the total population and the number of people who study Kabbalah, we are what? A drop in the ocean. However, that little point of consciousness that governs everything in our brain and body is also the size of a drop in the ocean. Does that make sense? Okay? Do you guys now know why we need to connect? Because when all of us connect, we make a drop in the ocean that affects the whole of humanity, just like this drop here affects my brain and the whole body. Okay, can you guys see the bigger picture now? It all feels like we are one individual, but all of us are a part of the bigger whole. So when we connect, when we unite, this dysfunctional brain that is causing humanity to go from ruin to ruin, starts to heal. And as we start to connect and we start to heal, then the whole body heals. This is why everything depends on a group of people who have the ability to influence the whole of creation. And you can only influence the whole of creation if we all, let's do this, if we all the people with a dot in the heart started connecting their dots. Then we become this conscious part of humanity, just like this conscious part of our brain. So when we all connect, just like that size of a pea part in our brain runs the whole body, in a healthy, correct way, when we all connect, the whole of humanity starts to function in a proper way. In a nutshell. What else? However, by correcting the interior, the exterior is corrected. Oh my goodness, he already touched that. Though in small pieces. Okay, however, by correcting the interior, the exterior is corrected. So, by correcting this part here, which is us, right? All the people with the dot in their heart who want to bestow, who want to come to the purpose of life. So all of us here, all of us. By us wanting to correct ourselves, the rest of humanity is automatically getting corrected. Because if my brain functions correctly, my hand movements function correctly, don't they? Yeah? I begin to function correctly, I talk properly, I put thought behind my actions, and I begin to I know what I'm doing, and I act knowingly. Okay. So everything depends, just like it depends on my brain, okay? If my brain functions properly, my whole body functions properly. So if we, the people with the dot in the heart, function correctly, the whole world begins to function correctly. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, ask me a question. I'll answer it, okay? Because it's very important we understand this. The whole of reality we're going to build, and we can only build the whole of reality correctly if I identify my part in reality, my role in reality. What am I supposed to do with my life in this reality so I can fulfill my destiny and perceive the Creator and everything He created inside creation? It's all about functioning correctly. So, and the exterior will be corrected every time until many pennies accumulate into a great sum, until all the exterior is corrected. So as we correct ourselves as being the interior of the world, the whole of creation also becomes corrected level by level in waves until everything and everyone is corrected. The main difference between the internal and the external is, for example, when one performs a certain correction, not all the organs agree to it. It is like a person who fasts. We say that only his interior agreed with the fast, but his exterior is feeling discomfort by the fast, since the body is always in opposition to the soul. Thus, the difference between Israel and the nations of the world, okay, the difference between Israel and the externality he's calling nations of the world, So the difference between Israel and the nations of the world should only be made concerning the soul. But concerning the body, they are equal. Israel's body, too, cares only for its own benefit. Okay, this is good to know. So inside of us, when the books are talking about nations of the world, who are they talking about? They're talking about Tony's externality. They're talking about my externality. All right, it's very important we understand the texts, because everybody's mind has been confused for the past 2,000 years because they get these definitions wrong. So inside me, there's a desire called Israel, straight to the Creator, the dot in the heart. That dot in the heart, let me just draw it here as well. That dot in the heart also has an internality and an externality. And also inside me, there are coarser desires that are not directed to spirituality at all. They're called nations of the world. And those desires also have an internality and an externality. The internality, what does it say? Thus, the difference between Israel and the nations of the world should only be made concerning the soul, which is this. Okay, the dot in the heart, the inclination. But concerning the body, body means what? Please don't tell me it's not your hands and legs. Okay, so you guys know body is the will to receive, right? This is our body, the will to receive pleasure. Okay, no body's in this business. So when the books talk about the bodies of a person, when they say body, every time in Kabbalistic books, when they say body, you understand it's the will to receive pleasure. So Israel has a body and a soul, and the nations of the world have the same. Okay? When it comes to the body, they're saying it's the same thing. The bodies are the same. Why? Because it's the desire to receive pleasure. Desire to receive pleasure. That's the body. All right, we must not see our meat and bone and flesh as the body. Not in spirituality anyway. So we have a body and we have a soul. So the Israel inside of us belongs to the soul, but when it comes to the body of Israel and the body of the nations of the world, it's the same thing. It's a desire to receive pleasure. Okay, so they're only different, the Israel inside the person and the nations of the world inside the person are only different in their aspiration for spirituality. Okay, what's the matter? You lost connection? Hence, when individuals in the whole of Israel are corrected, the whole world will naturally be corrected. Okay, so good. So when all of us here in this group of people who have an inclination towards the Creator, when all of us are corrected, the rest of the world will become corrected automatically. If we change, the whole world will change. This is not a joke. Because when we're corrected, what's going to change? Our observation point is going to change. So what am I going to see? I'm going to immediately see the whole world as corrected. Does that make sense? Yeah? Remember Tony, who was looking at the world from the outside? Where is that?
We're getting messages saying that they can't hear us. They all lost connection with the studio.
Shmuel, ain't sound. Shmuel? 1 2 1 2. No sound still? No sound? Can you guys hear me? You can hear me. Okay, they got sound. Okay, they got sound. Okay, cool. Does that make sense? What I just said a minute ago. If we all correct ourselves, okay, because you didn't hear me, it doesn't make sense. I see. Okay, let me just retake that. This is us studying Kabbalah, right? In the yellow. Okay, all these dots in the heart. these black dots, right? If we correct ourselves, what are we correcting? We're correcting our observation point, aren't we? Just like I spoke about Tony a minute ago. We're correcting our observation point towards the world. So if all of us, if you imagine all of us being corrected here, okay, I'm going to see the whole of reality as corrected, aren't I? Because the reason I see the world in a bad state is because I'm not corrected. My observation point is not corrected. I need to change my sight. I need to get a laser job on my eyes, basically, so I can see properly. So if all of us collectively correct ourselves together, we're going to see a perfect world. And if an individual does that, just like Tony here, he's going to see a perfect world. The important thing is for all of us here who have an inclination called Israel to be corrected together. Why? Because if I correct, or if we all correct, all of us who have an inclination towards the Creator, if we all correct ourselves together, then the whole world becomes corrected. Since we are that conscious part, that little pea pod, all right, in the brain, if the whole of that part becomes corrected, the whole world becomes corrected. That's called the final correction. So we have an individual correction, and we have a cumulative, a complete correction with everyone, a comprehensive correction, let's say. Hence the individual in the whole of Israel are corrected. Hence the individuals, oh great, that's us, okay? So when we all get corrected, the whole world will naturally be corrected, and that's the whole of reality here. It follows that the nations of the world will be corrected to the extent that we correct ourselves. This is the meaning of what our sages said: rewarded sentences himself and the whole world to a scale of merit. And they did not say sentences the whole of Israel, but the entire world to a scale of merit. In other words, the internal will correct the external. So if all of us with the dot in the heart get corrected, the whole world will come to a tranquil, peaceful, perfect state. Does that make sense? Let's take it at an individual level. If I have a mental problem, my body is not going to be very, behaving in a normal way, is it? Okay, if I have a psychological problem, I start to act silly, don't I? Yes? No? Yeah? Give me some sign of agreement. Okay, if I am a psycho, I am not acting normal. Okay, let me make it a bit more bluntly. Right? So this is the state of humanity. That's why the world is in chaos. Okay? So we feel that our world is chaotic. We feel sad, unfulfilled, unhappy. We just feel like we have an empty life. The reason we feel that way is because we have to change something inside. So from a psychologically sick person, we have to come to a psychologically stable, a perfectly healthy, grown-up individual. To make that switch, we're studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, which is to correct ourselves, to correct the way we see the whole of reality. Once we do that, if I correct that little defect inside of me, my whole body will then start to act properly. Right? This is at an individual level. In a collective level, if all the people in the heart start to act in a correct way, the whole of reality, the whole body, the whole of humanity will start to act correctly. They won't want to go to war. In fact, they'll want to love each other. Did I lose you guys somewhere in Timbuktu or what? Yeah? Is that making sense? No? Awesome. Is there any questions?
Oh, yes. We've got some questions coming in, definitely.
Shoot, go on.
All right, so we're going to take it from the top, and taking it from the top, we're going to start with Emmanuel. Emmanuel's asking, what is the difference between the dot in the heart and Israel?
There is no difference. That is Israel. Yashar El, straight to the Creator. There is an inclination inside of us. That inclination is called Israel. That inclination that wants to go back to the Creator, wants to connect with the Creator. That inclination is called Israel. If you're talking about the country Israel, well, the country of Israel isn't any different to any other country, you know. They're all going after the same stuff. They're all high-tech and gadget crazy here. That's about it. Give them all an iPhone and some money, they'll keep quiet all day.
Sad but true. All righty. Now, Varga from Romania is asking, how high must be the Israel's critical mass to correct the world?
That needs to be in quality rather than quantity. Because just like I said, that little point that governs our whole body inside our brain is a very small part, and it's that qualitative factor. So if we had a really strong group of, let's say, 10, 20 people, even that might be enough to change the world. Look how the world changed with Renaissance. Okay, how many were there? 6 or 7 guys in Italy?
Didn't take much.
Yeah, they changed the whole of Europe, and they came out of the Dark Ages. So it doesn't really take a lot. If you look at all the revolutions, it's just a few guys that come up with this bright idea. Okay, seems bright in the beginning, okay, until it turns into a big mess afterwards. But they come up with this idea and they change the whole world. All our political reforms, all our revolutions are all done by a few people. That should already be a good example for us. So for the whole world to come to that flip shouldn't take a lot. It's just a critical mass in quality.
Now, we didn't have many questions today, and then all of a sudden Claire hit us. And thank you very much, Claire. She's got a lot of questions for you. So I broke them down in A, B, C, D order. Number 1, if our inner part doesn't direct toward the Creator, is it still called Israel?
No, it can't. You can't still call it Israel. It's look, a dot in the heart is just an inclination. It doesn't have a real direction yet. Okay? So we need to give it direction, and that's the job actually. So when the dot in the heart awakens and we come to study, then we need to turn it like a compass by using the environment towards the Creator. Yeah.
Now she says, is Israel the soul that has already began being built?
No, not yet. It's the beginning, the initial point, that starting point, that kickstart point. The soul is when we turn it into a sensory organ that feels the Creator.
Now, Claire's also curious to know, how does the rest of humanity automatically get corrected?
It's really easy. It's like this gadget I have. Where's my phone? Well, my phone was somewhere around here. Okay, see that I've got a phone here somewhere, right? I have no idea how they made this. They must be geniuses. I have no idea how they put this thing together, but it's really good because I can talk to everyone. I can connect with everyone. I can call my family in Australia, my other family in Turkey. I can call my friends in the US. I have no idea how it all happens. They've got the sound waves, I don't know what waves, but I can even see them. Okay? Do I care about how they made it? Not particularly. I just like to use it. So the whole of humanity is like that as well. If you give humanity something good, something beneficial for them that they can use, they'll change just like that. And same with everything. So as humanity, as we change, okay, as we change and bring about this change, not in gadgets, but in attitude, if we bring about a change in how we relate to our lives, in our direction towards life, then when the benefit of that becomes revealed, the whole of humanity will just pick it up. Just like we pick up these phones nowadays, now that even kids are starting to play around with them automatically. Why? Because the new generation already is born with our impressions of what a smartphone is like. So they're already knowing how to press buttons, even though we don't teach them. So that inclination, that change, because we are a part of the whole. That's how it becomes influential. We don't see ourselves as being a part of a whole system. But as we advance in spirituality, we're going to begin to feel that reality is all of us together. And as I make changes in the right way, in the right direction, we all create these waves that change everything else in reality as well. Kind of like the butterfly effect, they say. So one butterfly flutters its wings somewhere and it influences the whole world. Same with us as well. We actually don't understand how much we influence each other. So any good influence actually begins to start to change the opinions, the thoughts of everyone.
Now, Claire, does that answer the last piece of that question for you? Because Claire also wrote, is it because that we're all connected?
Yeah.
And also, if lots of people aren't connected, how are they affected by those that are?
Because we're all connected. Okay, we're all connected. There is not anybody in the world that is not connected to the overall system. We all live on the planet, right? So everybody is actually connected to everybody. We don't feel connected. This is our problem. And because we don't feel connected, we feel like if I do harm to somebody else, it doesn't really affect me. But if a person really knew that any harm he caused to somebody else is like shooting himself, he would not harm anyone. So our major problem is coming to feel that overall connectedness at that higher level of consciousness. So once a group of people start to move in that direction, they automatically have a positive influence on everyone around them. In fact, all our thoughts are just floating between us. You know, our brain doesn't have the capacity to generate thought, but it can grasp things from an environment. So all the thoughts, ideas that we get, the desires we get mostly, are actually from the environment itself. Environment being what? The friends, the books, and the guide. So by using that environment, I can generate a positive development, and that can influence everyone positively. Okay. Also, you guys, how did you guys came here? How did you guys come here? Right? How did any of you come here? Why? Because somebody is going forward and moving forward in spirituality, and that influences you guys as well. What, last year, 2 years ago, were you guys asking the meaning of life? You were just floating with life, maybe, all right, or maybe 5 years ago.
Claire's been searching. Look, she's
yeah, okay, you search. It's good. It's good you're searching. Okay, it's good you're searching. I understand what you're saying. Okay, but before that, a person is just floating and just flowing with life. All right, so but what happens? Somebody's working towards it, somebody's advancing, and because we're all connected, those that are close to us also start to feel that vibration, start to feel an urge to discover the meaning of life, to discover why we're living for, and to want to get it. Yeah.
Now, Varga from Romania's question, changing our perception as observers changes the world?
Absolutely. Just like if I deleted one of my sensory organs, my whole reality would change. Well, imagine now adding an extra sensory organ and think how your whole life would change.
Our good friend Michael is back. Michael says, Mutlu, you haven't mentioned the ego once tonight. How does the ego relate to what we have spoken about tonight?
Because the ego wants to stop us from connecting. That's a good question.
He says, well, how does the ego relate to internality, externality, Israel, the nations of the world, etc.? Very good question, Michael.
In this reality, we're all broken pieces, right? Let's say parts of a whole, but living in our own little bubble. All of us are like that, 8 billion people. And let's say this is Michael here. Okay. So in red, there's you, Mike. Now the problem, Mike, is this. In order to feel perfection, I need to feel the opposite of perfection. So from the opposite, I can create a perfect reality. In order for me to feel the opposite, the Creator put all of us inside our own little bubble. You see this black line here? It's our ego. Now our ego works in such a way that it says, listen, Mike, let's just take the whole world for ourselves. It's all about me, Mike. Okay? So that's how Mike, in an egoistic way, thinks. So normally what people do is, let's take all the money in the world and let's take it all for ourselves. Well, what about the other 8 billion people? Don't worry about the 8 billion people. But the world's economy is worth something like, I don't know how many trillion is it. Let's say it's $100 trillion, right? So, but what am I going to do with $100 trillion? I mean, I can't even, I don't know even where to spend $100 trillion. But Mike says, don't worry about it. Let's just keep it somewhere safe. Don't give anything to anyone, and it's all ours. Okay? Even though I don't know what to do with it, okay? Even though I can buy the whole world and I'll still feel empty, don't worry about it. Let's just keep it all for ourselves and keep it quiet. Okay? So that's the egoistic Mike. That means I have to kill everybody else. So this is how the world is working right now, right? In Davos, they added another 13 billionaires to the billionaires list. Okay, and everybody's really happy about it. Nobody mentions how many hundreds of millions are starving because of 13 people. Okay, so all of a sudden 13 people are billionaires. God knows how many how many people are losing out from their own livelihood because of them.
And I didn't make the list this year either.
Yeah, so it's non-calculatable. Okay, so our ego is the main factor that's working against connecting with others. The way I can open up my sensory organ is actually by utilizing the others. Why? Because what did I say here before? It's by complementing each other. See? You see, none of us can do everything in life. But when we're all together, we can do everything in life. So we just don't understand, and we don't want to understand how this works. You see, Michael, on your own, you can't do your farming. You can't, sew your own clothes, do your own car, fix your own house by yourself, build yourself a shelter. You can't do everything on your own. So humanity, when they all come together and connect properly, they can do wonders. But our ego is stopping us from wanting to do wonders, because our ego likes to be on top of everybody else. Everybody wants to be He-Man or Sheila, okay, or Wonder Woman, right? Yeah, but nobody wants to be the regular guy, okay? So because we have these silly aspirations like little children, that ego is that thing that stops us from connecting. It stops us from this. It stops us from seeing ahead, let's say. So in this short life, we end up in a desperate situation with all of humanity. So The ego is going to be the thing that as we try to connect, it's going to bring thoughts and anti-connection desires, all the anti-connecting thoughts and desires, aspirations for not connecting are going to be revealed. Now the question is, what are we going to do when they get revealed? That's the job. It's like overcoming any difficulty you have in a project. There you go. Does that answer your question?
I think so. Now, please forgive me if I mispronounce your name. Uche from Lagos. How do we correct our negative thinking or stop having negative thoughts?
By using the environment, which is the guide, the books, the friends. So you need to come to, you need to come to studying. You need to make Kabbalah part of your life so it'll influence you and your thoughts rather than you being influenced by the outside world.
Claire says, is action to try and make things better in the external world useful in any way? Is there a time lapse between correcting ourselves and the correction of the outer selves? If so, what do we do in the meantime?
Well, we do dissemination, don't we? Okay, listen though. Listen, it's a good question. Okay, if let's say you remember the psycho example I gave you, right? If I'm a sick person, mentally sick person, how good of an idea is it me trying to reform the world? Okay, not a very good idea, is it? Because it's just going to be, it's just everybody's just going to go nuts. Okay, so that's not a good idea. So the Kabbalists are saying, oh well, listen, we can change the world if we change ourselves. So if we change ourselves, the world will begin to change. And if we correctly help others, okay, correctly help others to change themselves, not me changing them, okay, all of us changing each other, changing ourselves, correctly help others by informing them that there is a meaning to our lives. And that's called dissemination. Okay, this is like, it's us teaching here, for example. Okay, what do we want to do? We want to help people who want to find out the meaning of life. So we help people. That's called correct help. Why? Because it's directed towards the purpose of life. All the other things that we're trying to do to make the world a better place will not work at all. We'll see in a few years that all the clean energy stuff they came up with are going to cause more harm than the previous stuff they were using. It's crazy.
Gary writes and says, does the point in the heart direct us from a future state of completeness?
It directs us to a future state of completeness, yes.
Felix says, I can't imagine how all our point in the hearts or dot in the hearts can be connected. How useful is that connection?
Well, think of it this way, Felix. Have you got kids? Where's Felix? How come I can't see them on the screen here?
Let's see here. Felix.
Is Felix with us?
Felix, you there?
There's Felix.
All right.
He's got the headset.
Yep, right
okay,
there.
so what was the question?
Felix's question, let's see here. It is,
I can't imagine all our dot in the heart can be connected. How useful is that connection? Well, you're right. At first, it seems weird. And in fact, at first, we can't really fathom it. But if you think about it, it's like having a family. All right? If you have family, have you got kids? Where's Felix there?
Felix, you have children?
Got children? Yes? Okay, I can't hear him, but let's say he's got kids. Okay, let's say you have family and kids. And somehow you feel connected to them. It's like mother and kids. Okay, we men are less connected because we're just not wired in that way. But women who give birth to children, right, they're really connected to their babies. It's like even though they give birth to them and they raise them, it's like they have this lifelong connection with them. Well, humanity is like that as well. We're just lacking this sensory organ that is making us all feel like one part of a whole, part of this whole. And yeah, you're right. We don't feel it at all. We can't even fathom it because we're so opposite to that state of connectedness that it's really impossible to even think about it. But in time we'll change. In time we'll begin to feel that we're connected. This is the whole idea of the study. Yep.
Now, Teach says, how is that Mother Teresa type of charity works?
It doesn't work.
How is it that they are not good examples of love and altruism in Kabbalah?
Because there's a whole article on that. Listen, if I'm trying to do something good to you according to what I think is good, then that is not good. If I'm doing good to you according to what the Creator thinks is good, that's good. In order for me to do something good according to how the Creator thinks good, means that I have to get connected to the Creator first. I'll tell you why. We have a lot of people in the world who feel that they're doing good to people. Like the example you gave. Had you been there and seen the environment of those children and how they were looked at, and then if you had gone to a hospital in the same country, up the road from there, and seen the facilities of how those kids could have been saved, you would have said, as an intelligent person, said, listen, these kids are dying here. Why don't you take them to the hospital where they can get treated and they won't die from these silly basic things? Then you could have saved them. Instead, they had an argument. Death is their destiny. Isn't that clever? Ah, silly. Our life needs to start taking a perspective from outside our egoism. The reason those people are not doing good is because from what they think they're doing good, they're feeling pleasure for themselves. That's not altruism. And a lot of people who have this problem is this. If you give them an alternative of doing things better, and if you show them that another person can do what they're doing better, they usually don't let go of what they're doing. That's the way to measure them. It's in one of Rabash's articles. We need to understand that doing good is not according to what I think is good. That's coercion, actually. Doing good is doing good according to what the Creator thinks is good. This is why in all of our developments, in all of our inventions, nothing positive has come out. Despite all the technological gadgets we have a higher rate of sickness, higher rate of depression, more wars, more hunger, more all the bad things. And all the good things, what do you see good nowadays in the world? Finally the pandas are off the what list is that? Extinction list. Yeah, that's right. Finally the pandas are off the extinction list. That's the only good news you're reading today. Everything else is mumbo jumbo. Okay? So all those people who go around trying to change the world are causing the world much more harm, and they're not saints at all. All the kids that died, most of the kids that died in the hands of those people who you just gave an example of, could have been saved. You can in fact watch that on a BBC documentary. And you can find it on YouTube too. I actually watched it. Yeah.
Now, Claire is on fire tonight. I mean, she's ready to rock and roll. Okay. I think you've awoken her. She says, what is next week's subject and what can we do in advance?
Well, that's finally a nice question. Claire, our next topic is, lesson number 10. It's called dissemination, helping others advance in spirituality. Helping others advance in spirituality, not in anything else. And spirituality, that is, what does that mean? To help somebody advance in spirituality means help them understand human nature and the general laws of nature. In other words, education. All right, education is our next week's topic. And, well, I don't know what you can read on that. It's not really, there's not really a book about it, but we'll talk about it. What else? Last question, go on. We're already 6 minutes past 10.
Alrighty. Alex is asking, how do we know what the Creator regards as good?
We don't. This is why we have to study. This is why we don't do anything towards the outside world in terms of what other people think is good. We just educate. We try to just raise the consciousness of humanity. Because everybody wants to change the world. Okay? And nobody thinks about changing themselves. And that's horrific. So all those goody-goody two-shoe people on the planet, they're actually just, you know, using and abusing everybody else, trying to change the world according to what they think is right. So that's where you get all the religious nutcases and all those people who think they're doing good to others with their charities and stuff. Yeah.
Couple of really important questions before we go in regards to the course. Number one, next week, the 13th is Tuesday, and so we're still going to have class, correct?
Next Tuesday, yes, we have class.
Okay, the 21st will be during the Congress, so there will be no class on that Tuesday, correct?
That's right. We're going to check it out.
Okay, and also, you just wrote in, so when will we start the young group?
The young group will start not on February 27, because February 27 is going to be
the makeup for the week that we missed, correct?
That's right. So, oh, wait a minute. What's the date today? Today's the 6th. Today's the 9th lesson. Okay. So, on the 13th, we're going to have the 10th lesson. And on the 27th, we're going to have the first lesson for the young group. Okay. So, our first lesson for the 3rd semester, our young group, is on the 27th. It doesn't mean we have a holiday on the 20, what was it again?
20.
Come back to the date.
21st.
Yeah, it doesn't mean we have a holiday on the 20th. On the 20th, you'll be able to watch what's going on in the Congress by going to this web page, www.cab.tv. Okay, so choose the English language there, and then you'll be able to, when you select the English language, you'll be able to see what's going on in the Congress on CAB TV on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You can watch it all day. If you've got nothing, if you're not going to work, you can watch it all day. And in the evening, there'll be activities as well. So stick your head in there, because if you're not coming to the Congress, it's really good to see what the friends are getting up to. Okay. So Mel says, so does that mean I shouldn't try and help others? Well, look, Mel, I'm not saying don't help other people. I mean, if you know, I'm just saying it's not spiritual, and there's a limit to what we can do. We don't help in the sense that we don't go out there and try to change the world. If my neighbor needs help with carrying her bags, yeah, I give her a hand. It's not a big deal. We're not bad people, by the way. We're good people. Where's Mel? Where's Mel?
Mel is here.
Mel's there. Okay, so I can't see her on the camera. But it's not that we don't do good things to people. Of course, we're kind to people. We're good to people. But we don't enforce how we think the world should be, or we don't enforce on other people how we think they should be treating other people at all. That kind of stuff we don't do. And those, people on the outside, they have this tendency to enforce on others what they think is good. We don't do that. Okay, that's not doing good. But, if you have a friend that needs a hand in something, I don't know, if you have a friend who needs a hand in their homework, or your mom needs some help in the kitchen or whatever, of course we help them out. It's not like, stop everything. No. But do you understand what I mean? I'm just talking about those world reformers who are trying to change the world. That kind of stuff we don't engage in. Our only engagement in helping others with respect to the global society is helping educate people with respect to human nature and the laws of nature. But when Anthony needs a hand with something, I help him out, don't I?
Of course.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so don't go all in the opposite direction. All right. So we help people. We're generally nice to people. We're good citizens. Okay, but we don't go and impose anything, our ideologies or our thoughts or the way we think how the world should be, and start sticking our nose into people's lives.
Mel says got it and thanks.
Okay, great. Great. All right then. Right. So Claire says, so we shouldn't campaign against health cuts or fracking, etc. Okay. So I don't know if you can, if you feel it's going to influence your health, you can, okay, but I'm just not going there, okay? I'm not going into politics, okay? Sometimes I feel like I want to change the world as well, but look, the best way to change the world is to change yourself, so we can see why everything happens the way it happens, okay? Right then, all the best. Take care, guys. Next Tuesday, like I said, as usual, the following Tuesday, watch the Congress, and then we're going to start the young group. Have a great evening. All the best. Take care. Great to see you again.
Bye-bye.